Hello and welcome back to our new session of HTML input elements. In this session we are going to see few next HTML input elements. Select element. Most of the cases we need one drop down list to select a single option from multiple. For that purpose the select element is used to insert a drop down list. We'll switch to our HTML page. This is my HTML page and I am going to insert a select option /select. It is a paired tag, select option, and between this opening and closing tag we are going to insert one more tag, that is a paired tag, that is option, to insert the options in our drop down list. And these are, for example, option T / option milk / option. So I have inserted two options and I am going to just save this. I will just format this, yes, save, and I will refresh my web page. Yes, you can see here, we can see one drop down. By clicking this small arrow we can see the options tea and milk. If we want to add some more, then we will go for again next option coffee / option green tea / option, and I will save this. I will switch and I will just refresh this page. Now you can see this more added options. So this is our HTML select input. It is a paired tag, opening and closing. Within that opening and closing we have one more option tag, and we can add so many option tags between this opening and closing select option, and it will give this drop down list. Okay, next, the option elements defines an option that can be selected. By default the first item in the drop down list is selected. To define a pre-selected option, add a selected attribute to the option. Now in this, by default the first element, which is the first element, T, it is the first option we have inserted and it is by default selected. If you want to change the sequence or to another option by default selected, we have to set one attribute that is called as selected in the specific option. For example, if I want to select coffee by default selected, then I will use which one? Selected attribute. So let's check option selected. Okay, and I will save this. Now I will refresh this page. Yes, you can see here by default coffee is selected instead of first option T. If you do not specify the selected attribute to any option, then the first element is going to be selected by default, that is a T. Fine. After that, next element is a text area. Most of the time we need to insert a text field which is going to have a address having multiple lines. Currently in a simple text box like this, I will just delete this. Input type is equal to text. Save, refresh. Now in this simple single line text box we can insert or we can type a single line. After entering, the data is going to posted and not going to enter the new line. So insert a multiple line text box, we have to use a text area. Text area is another element. Element defines a multi-line input field, a text area. For example, like this text area, and you can specify number of rows and number of columns. Like this, we will go, I will delete this text area / text area. If you just use this much only, it will give this output, and you can resize from this also. You can enter multiple lines. Okay, also we can specify the attributes. Rows 10, calls 30. Save, refresh. Yeah, you can check here, right? So this is your text area element. Text area element. The text area element defines a multiple or multi-line input field text area. Next, the rows attribute specifies the visible number of lines in the text area. Here you can see rows 10, that means in the output you can have visible 10 lines. We can have more, but at the time of first sight visible are 10 rows. And same thing about the columns also. In the text area, the calls attribute specifies the visible width of the text area. This is how the HTML code above will be displayed in the browser. So this is the text area you can see. Next is a button. We have seen a submit button, input type submit. That button submits the or posts the data to the server, but this button is another. It is also button, but it is not a submit button. It is a simple button. You have to just use a button tag. It is also paired tag. You can see button type button. For this time you have to just ignore this. We will see in this in the JavaScript session what is this. Now you are going to use just button type button, and you are going to specify the text that is going to appear on our button. It will simple a button. We will go here and we will check. Okay, button type is equal to button slash button. I will save this and I will go to the output. Now you can see this is the button. There is no any text present because we haven't specified a text. You have to specify the text between opening and closing tag. Click in save and I will say refresh. Yeah, you can see here, click. Now what is the difference between input type submit and button? Just check. First of all, input type is equal to submit slash input save br. Yes, there are yeah, we can see there are two buttons. Both are looking like similar, but this is a submit button and this is a normal button. By clicking the submit button, you can see the page is posted to the server. Yes, yeah, you can see here. But by clicking the normal button, it will not post to the server. So we can execute some JavaScript function on clicking this button, and how it is work or how it will work we will see in the JavaScript section. But right now till this is the only a simple button. Okay. Next is your input type password. Now if we check or if we try to insert one simple text box, input type is equal to text, value is equal to my data slash input. Now what will be the output? So it is a simple text box and it has a text my data. This text is going to specified by which attribute? Value attribute. So value attribute specifies the which data is going to display in that text box by default when page opens. If we do not specify any value in this field, and I will save, so it will remain a blank. But most of the time we have to insert some password, and password should not be visible. So for that purpose we have to use input type password. So it will display like this, hidden characters, input type password. Let's check how it works. So this is normal text. I will use br and input type is equal to password slash input. I will save and refresh. So both are looking the same text box, but this is a normal text box and this is our password field. So you cannot visible what I have written here. Okay, so all is like a dot. This is a password field. So you can insert a password field by using which attribute or which element, that is your input type is equal to password. So input is a tag common and type is an attribute and its value is password. If the type is a text, it is a normal text, and if type is a password, it is like this. Okay, so this is one more element. Next, input type reset. So what is input type reset button? Most of the time there are multiple fields in our web form, and most of the time we have to clear these fields on some click event. So we can use that reset button. For example, we will see in this practically. Okay, so this is my text box, this is my password field, and I will add one more input type is equal to reset slash reset. Save, and I will say now when I will type this and I will click reset button, the text written or typed in these two fields will get cleared automatically. This is the what function of reset button here. So again we will see. So this is my name and I have entered my password, and if I will click reset, so it will clear automatically the fields. Not only the two fields, how many fields are there, number of fields there can be, so all fields will get clear on that reset button. So how it is inserted? By using the input type reset. Now you can see input is a common tag, type is also an attribute common for all, but their values are going to different. For example, for normal text it is a text, for password field the value will be password, and to insert a reset button, reset. Similarly for submit, what it will be, input type is equal to submit slash input, sorry, input, right? Same, refresh. Okay, so this is submit. Submit button will post the data to the server, and reset button will just reset or clear the data. So after typing and clicking submit button, it will also clear, but one more additional task is that the fields or the data inside these fields are going to post it to the server, while reset button only clears the fields and not set that or not send that data to the server. This is the difference input type. So next, so you can see here after clicking reset the fields are going to clear. Next, input type is checkbox. We have seen the radio box in the last session, and what does it? It selects a single option from the multiple, but most of the time we need to select multiple options. For example, the document submitted to the college, there can be a number of documents like LC, TC, certificate, some mark sheets, etc, etc. So at that time we cannot use the radio button, because radio button can select only one. We have to use a multiple for this purpose. So input type is equal to checkbox will checkbox let a user select 0 or more options of a limited number of choices. So let's check how it works. Input type is equal to checkbox. What is it? Checkbox. Okay, so you can see input type is equal to checkbox, and its value is going to be car. Checkbox value is equal to car. We can say car. Save, refresh, car. You can say in check. We will just insert some break lines. Yes, you can say checkbox car. Next, we have input type is equal to checkbox, value is equal to bus slash input. We are save, refresh. You can check here multiple options. Fine. So this is your checkbox. checkbox says let a user select 0 or more options of a limited number of choices. Input type color. Most of the time we also need to select some color for background or for text color or something else. For that purpose, to select a color, we are going to use this input type color. That means input is a element of HTML, type is attribute, and value is a color. So it's used for input fields that should contain a color. Depending on browser support, a color picker can show up in the input field. So we'll check how it works. So this is our input type is equal to color slash input. Save, refresh. So you can see here like this, and if I will click on this, it will open a color dialog box, and by selecting a color, clicking OK, that color will get selected. But right now, after the selecting the color, what will happen? It is not part of our syllabus because it is done through some scripting, Java scripting. Okay, so this is not right now. So we have to concentrate only right now only how to open that color palette. Okay, so how it is done? It is done through the input type color. This is the only input type date. Again, it is used for input fields that should contain a date. Depending on browser, again it will show the calendar date picker, we can say. So most of the time we also need to insert some date, select a date in our HTML page. For that purpose, we can insert a simple text box in which we can type, but users can make mistakes. Some people can insert a date first, month after. Some people will enter month first, date after. So to avoid this ambiguity, we are going to use input type as date, which will show a calendar like this. Input type is equal to date. Input type is date. Okay, we will not use remaining these attributes, only simple input type is date slash input. Save and refresh. You can see MMDD5, month, date and year. By clicking this arrow, the calendar will get open. By clicking the date is going to be selected, and after clicking this cross, the text field will get clear. So this is our date function. So are you getting what is happening? So these are some few input elements, and in the next session we are going to see few more input elements like input type number, date, time, etc. Okay, for the time limitations, we are going to end this session for this point only. Okay, thank you.